And another thing too, though, I remember hearing a couple guys talk about their pastor, and the pastor had been there well over 20 years at the church, and they were talking about, man, his messages just aren't fresh. And I said, man, multiply it out. 20 times 50 is 1,000. Double that's 2,000. You try to speak to the same people 2,000 times, it'd be fresh every single time. I think sometimes people have unrealistic expectations. I think we need to be free, and this is not an excuse, but that we don't hit a home run every time.
No,
we stand
don't.
up there in the pulpit.
In fact,
it's okay.
In fact, frankly, in baseball, if you hit 300, you're considered a Hall of Fame hitter.
Yeah, right.
And we hope to do a little bit better than that. But it's tough. It's challenging. Now, for me, speaking-wise, things like this just charge me up. I go back, and I've got enough adrenaline and energy and blessing of the Holy Spirit to carry me for 3 or 4 weeks. But I have to be cautious physically, and that's the tough part. Sometimes, Sammy, we don't have good gauges we read. Mm-hmm. What gauge do you use to read if you're fatigued? How do you know that, whoops, I'm in trouble?
Well, I knew it whenever I lay down on the couch and couldn't get up for 30 hours. That was a couple of years ago. I've learned a little bit since then. But, I think for me, what I've done since then, and, of course, you guys are on the board,
sure.
and you slapped my wrist real good there. But I think the thing that I've learned is I can go. And like you said,
sure.
I'm in a really heavy part of my schedule,
sure.
super heavy right now.
Right.
But I'm coming off of 3 months of being really renewed and refreshed. I can run.
Sure.
I can run a 5K run if I'm rested before.
Sure.
And so I've done that. And then when I come out of that this time, I'll again, it'll slow down and I'll get recouped.
Now,
and that's my rhythm that I have. It's more seasonal type things because I'm dealing with people overseas. And
right. But let me ask you a question. Yeah. How does Tex do in that rhythm?
She does. She does well. In some ways, she does better than me. In other ways, she doesn't do as well as me.
See, this is a tricky deal because sometimes as a pastor, I can keep a certain pace and rhythm, and I'm just wiping my wife out.
Yeah.
And she's looking and saying, this thing's out of control. And balancing that, see, that's where our spouses are given to us by God to keep us balanced, and it's one of the checks that we have to watch.
I think the thing that for her that is most difficult is she struggles with back problems.
Sure.
And being on these long plane rides, and that's the thing that gets me.
Sure.
It's not the going and the preaching and the ministering. It's the long plane rides.
Oh, now, Sammy, it's fun to live in a pressurized aluminum tube.
Yeah, right.
I mean, everybody wants to get in one of those cans that's pressurized and live there.
Yeah, and
those are terrible.
It is fun if you do it once a year.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, I don't think most people understand the level of torture that takes place on that pressurized aluminum
and
tube.
Just going through that over and over and over again. My cholesterol levels when I was a pastor, they were great. Matter of fact, I was about 30, 40 pounds lighter than I am now. But when I started traveling...
Let's not talk about that.
I can get you to. But my weight went up. My cholesterol levels went up when I started traveling. There's a certain type of stress that is not mental or
sure.
emotional, but there's a physical stress sure. on your body that comes from that. Okay, so we all need a rhythm. Okay, we need that time alone. We need to find a rhythm where we go, we rest, we go, we rest, is what you're saying. What else?
People. We've got to have good people. Let's be really honest, Sammy. There's some people in life that take energy out of us. There are some people that just replenish us. And there are some people that when we're with them, they energize us. And I would pray for every leader to have people that are safe, people that can hold them accountable, people that can love them, encourage them. And I find that I get energized and refreshed when I'm with people that just have a way of doing that to me. And you're one of those people in my life.
Yeah, and when I was a pastor, there were guys in our church that they weren't necessarily the leaders or whatever, but they were guys that did that for me. I remember the first church I pastored in Germany. It was an American military community, and there was a guy, we went running together. I mean, and we ran in races, and we were training for the Greek marathon and all this, and we just had a great time together. But he was an encourager to me.
Sure.
He just encouraged my heart and encouraged my spirit, and that's true. Everybody needs someone like that, or some group like that.
Absolutely.
And of course, for me, the board is that. And now, as I travel in ministry, I mean, we were talking about this earlier. You know, our board is very relational.
Sure.
And we, I look to you guys for encouragement, for accountability, to keep me on target, and I think that's critically important.
God has a way of sending what I call angel people. People that are just a blessing. They encourage us, they love us, they support us, and we need to make sure in this rhythm that we are engaged in a healthy way with those people and utilize them as God's gift to us.
Yeah. I think that's probably the most difficult thing in a traveling ministry.
In your life, Sammy, it's very tough to do relationships.
Yeah,
You're not
it's
around.
almost by a distance, you know.
Sure.
In San Antonio, guys say, I can't keep up with your schedule. No, I don't have no clue, and it's true. It's not ugly. It's true. They don't know. But let's take a typical person who is in a community like yours, or in a big cities are tougher than small communities.
Yeah, you're right.
But although your church and your situation, I think, is similar to a big city, what I found in a large city, urban setting, is people live in a community, but then they work scattered so far that it's hard to really connect with them on a regular basis. Do you find that? I know you're not in an urban center.
But it's tough to connect with people. But, Sammy, the heart of the epistles is one another. One another. Forgive one another, bear with one another, encourage one another, pray for one another. And one of the things I discover is that when a person disconnects from regular one another, it's kind of like plugging yourself in and recharging. It can tend to fatigue. And so, but you need to make sure in the one another that you're getting the replenishment that you need in relationships.
Relationships with God, relationships with people, all this part of the renewal. Any other things that that come to your heart and mind, and being personally renewed as a leader?
This is really silly, but Sammy, I get renewed through my family. When I get to hang out with my kids and my grandkids and my wife, when we just do those family things, I love it. I mean, to me, that's just fun. Because
the grandkids, especially, I tell you what, man. And of course, just yesterday, of course, this is being recorded right now, and it'll come later. But we had our first grandson born. But, we have 2 little granddaughters, and I tell you what, I can feel beat up and knocked down. And you know what? Those little girls just love me.
Yeah.
No matter what I've done wrong, no matter if I failed,
And you get to love them, you get to spoil them, and then send them home.
Yeah.